Hey everyone, welcome back to all my listeners. This is episode 3 in season 11. Today is Wednesday, January 17th, 2024. My name is Sonal Patel, and this is the Paint the Medical Picture podcast series. So let's dive right in. Today's Newsworthy is going to be featuring another new batch of codes, the PCS codes. And in my Trusty tip, I'm going to go over my compliance recommendations for the new Social Determinants of Health HCPCS code for 2024. And of course, I'm going to go ahead and close out and round out today's episode with a remarkable quote on quality and quantity by Steve Jobs. Let's get into it. So let's get into Newsworthy. CMS released 41 new procedure codes, which are effective April 1st, 2024. Now, these new codes are ICD-10-PCS codes, or International Classification of Diseases, 10th Revision, Procedure Coding System codes, and they're used in the inpatient setting. Now, the new procedure codes include the following: insertion of radioactive element palladium-103 collagen implant into brain, destruction of conduction mechanism using irreversible electroporation, resection of spleen, percutaneous, hand-assisted, dilation of nasopharynx, various approaches, resection, excision, right large intestine, percutaneous endoscopic approach, hand-assisted, resection, excision, left large intestine, percutaneous endoscopic approach, hand-assisted, resection, excision, appendix, percutaneous endoscopic, hand-assisted, resection, excision, transverse colon, percutaneous endoscopic, hand-assisted, resection, excision, descending colon, percutaneous endoscopic, hand-assisted, resection, excision, sigmoid colon, percutaneous endoscopic, hand-assisted, transfer, omentum to various locations, open approach, resection, excision, liver, percutaneous endoscopic, hand-assisted, resection, excision, right lobe liver, percutaneous endoscopic, hand-assisted, resection, excision, left lobe liver, percutaneous endoscopic, hand-assisted, resection, excision, pancreas, percutaneous endoscopic, hand-assisted, resection, gallbladder, percutaneous endoscopic, hand-assisted, resection, right kidney, percutaneous endoscopic, hand-assisted, resection, left kidney, percutaneous endoscopic, hand-assisted, resection, bilateral kidneys, percutaneous endoscopic, hand-assisted, introduction of other thrombolytic into pleural cavity, percutaneous, introduction of talquetamab into subcutaneous tissue, percutaneous, new technology group 9, and monitoring of interstitial fluid volume, subepidermal moisture using electral biocapacitance, external, new technology, group 9. Hand in hand with the new codes are the ICD-10-PCS guidelines. These were also updated. Guideline D.1a for brachytherapy was revised to include another exception to the guideline. The new exception is the insertion of palladium-103 brachytherapy seeds embedded in a collagen matrix to the treatment site after resection of a brain tumor. The updates are all available to the public on the CMS website. And now it's time for my best practice tips in Trusty Tip. So questions continue to come in for all of the new codes to use in 2024. There are so many. As of January 1st, 2024, there are 230 new CPT codes and 345 new HCPCS codes, and as I just disclosed in Newsworthy, another 41 new PCS codes as well. So we have a lot to get used to in 2024. But let's go ahead and dive in and focus on the new G0136, which is defined as administration of a standardized evidence-based social determinants of health risk assessment tool for 5 to 15 minutes. So let's keep in mind that this is an assessment tool, not a screening. CMS is going to expect a practice to follow up with the patient, or a referral is made for any identified findings based on the SDoH risk assessment that's provided to the patient. So, important things to remember. The social determinants of health assessment tools must have questions that cover 4 core domains. Number 1, food insecurity. Number 2, housing insecurity. Number 3, transportation needs. And number 4, utility difficulties. If the provider who administers the assessment finds other relevant questions to add for other social determinants of health risks, that he or she, quote, may choose to add other domains if prevalent or culturally salient to their patient population, end quote. And that's based on a CMS change request number 13452. So providers can also add other pertinent questions they find applicable to their patient population. Now, another crucial detail is the assessment tool itself. In the final 2024 Medicare Physician Fee Schedule, CMS stated that providers must use a standardized, evidence-based risk assessment tool that's been tested and validated through research. Now, examples were provided of standardized tools in the final rule, and those were the CMS Accountable Health Communities tool, the Protocol for Responding to and Assessing Patients' Assets, Risks, and Experiences, or the PRAPAR tool, the PRAPARE tool, and also instruments identified for Medicare Advantage Special Needs Population Health Risk Assessment. Now, those were identified in the final rule. But Decision Health also provides more tools that they have located with WellRxD. That organization provides 11 questions, as well as your current life situation survey, and they provide 9 questions with additional questions that your provider can add, again, based on the patient's needs. So please look for and use the most current version of a tool that fits your patient population, but be mindful it must be one that's been tested and validated through independent research. Always document what tool you used in the patient record. Make sure that you're completing the documentation for the service. Make sure that complete documentation for the service begins before the provider administers the questionnaire, which means the provider should document why they believed the patient had one or more unmet SDoH needs that interferes with their ability to diagnose or treat the patient. Now, if the provider determines that the patient has a relevant unmet SDoH, the provider should also document what they did in response to that information. The national non-facility rate for 2024 is $18.66. And finally, I focus Season 11 Spark on quality versus quantity. I want this 11th season Spark to be filled with our world's thought leaders, writers, artists, philosophers, everyone who inspires the need for better understanding of quality versus quantity. So, in this week's inspiring quote in Spark is from Steve Jobs. Be a yardstick of quality. Some people aren't used to an environment where excellence is expected. Absolutely true, right? This quote reminds us that quality matters. This quote encourages us to continually provide quality in our work. If that work is with our hands, with our bodies, with our minds, irregardless, we must deliver quality. This quote encourages us to keep that messaging, that mindset, as we perform our work or our service. This quote inspires us to keep striving for the very best, to keep being the very best. I'm happy Steve Jobs' spark still burns brightly in all of us today. So that wraps up today's episode. And as always, I appreciate you all diving into today with me. If you want more information from me, please go ahead and follow me on LinkedIn. I'll leave links to everything in the show notes below. All right, you guys. So in my final note today, stay warm out there. It's been an Arctic freeze where I am with temps in the minus 15 degrees. It's so very, very cold. Now, keep hopeful because you guys are destined for so much more in 2024. And remember to catch my LinkedIn Live broadcast with Betty Hovey on Fridays for our third episode of Compliance Capers. That's right, in just 2 days, we're going live on LinkedIn, and you can also catch it later on my YouTube channel for Paint the Medical Picture. Now, I wish you guys all an amazing and very, very happy week ahead. Thank you guys so much for listening in on today's episode, and I hope every week with me brings you closer to helping your providers paint a masterpiece. See you next Wednesday.